What's up, YouTube? I'm here to do my prediction video for UFC 223. Let's start at the bottom. The first fight is Zabit, can't say his last name, versus Kyle Bochniak. And to me, this fight's pretty easy. I mean, I feel like they're just trying to give Zabit one more win before they start giving him top 15 guys, which I'm totally fine with. I do think they should give these guys 2 or 3 fights before they start giving them the better guys. And he's looked amazing in both his fights. I think he fought 2 really solid up-and-comers and looked amazing. Kyle Bochniak, you know, he's looked okay, but he's kind of 50-50 so far. And I just feel like there's a phenomenally huge grappling advantage in favor of Zabit in this fight. So I think that's what's going to happen. I think that this fight's going to hit the ground sooner or later, and I think Zabit's just going to dominate from there and win by submission with like a rear naked choke. Next is Devin Clark versus Mike Rodriguez. And to me, Mike Rodriguez, you know, he's 9-2, but both of his losses were decision losses to better wrestlers, and he's a great striker. All of his wins are by knockout, but I just think Devin Clark's too strong of a wrestler, and I think unless Mike gets lucky and hits him with like a really big shot, I think Devin's just going to be able to hit takedowns or push him against the fence for 3 straight rounds and win a pretty clear-cut decision. Sorry, just a tiny bit sick, guys. Next is Bec Rawlings versus Ashley Evans Smith, and to me, Bec Rawlings is probably a little bit better of a striker, but I think that Ashley Evans Smith just has a huge grappling advantage wrestling-wise, kind of like the last fight. I think Ashley Evans Smith is going to be able to push her against the fence or hit the takedowns and just maintain top control and grind out a decision win. I don't think either of those fights are going to be super entertaining, but I got Ashley Evans Smith winning by decision. Next is Alex Caceres versus Artem Lobov, and Artem struggled with like guys who are just overall better strikers than him or better wrestlers. I don't think Alex Caceres is either of those things. I think striking-wise, these guys are probably even, but I think Artem's going to have the power advantage. I think that these guys are going to be landing on each other probably about the same amount the whole 3 rounds, but I think Artem is going to be doing more damage, and I wouldn't be surprised if Artem gets a late finish, but I'm going to lean towards Artem. I think that he's never not been able to keep up with the other guy. You know, he's lost fights, but his striking is actually really good, you know, to be fair to him. He's all like, the striking counter is always about even. He just loses because of like takedowns and shit like that. So I'm gonna lean towards Artem. I just think he's got the power advantage, and I think he might get like a late 3rd round TKO. Next is Evan Dunham versus Olivier Mercier, and to me, Olivier is probably the, I don't know, I just don't think he's actually better than Evan Dunham anywhere. I think that Evan Dunham's the better striker and the better grappler overall. I mean, unless Olivier takes his back, I think Evan Dunham is the better scrambler, better submission guy in every position, and I think that his striking is better. I think Evan Dunham's just going to be able to keep this fight standing and just outpoint him for 3 rounds and win the decision. I just think his technical striking is a lot better, and that's what he's just going to win a decision. Next is Joe Lauzon versus Chris Gruetzemacher, and to me, this fight heavily favors Joe Lauzon. Chris Gruetzemacher's takedown defense isn't super amazing. He's good at scrambling back up, but in his last fight, he got taken down repeatedly, and he shoots for a lot of takedowns, and I think that if this fight hits the ground, Joe Lauzon's just going to have the advantage. I think striking-wise, they're about even. Chris is just a bit more grittier. My one and only fear is that I don't know where Joe Lauzon's durability is at. I mean, he's been looking not as good the last few years, but if he's still got one more in him, I think this would be it. I think Chris is going to shoot him for a takedown sooner or later, and Joe's going to be able to hit him with a guillotine, and that's what I think is going to happen. I think in the 1st round, sooner or later, Joe's going to time the guillotine and just win by 1st round guillotine. Next is Ray Borg versus Brandon Moreno, and I personally think this fight should be on the main card. That's just me. I think it's, you know, like number 3 or 4 versus number 6 or 7, but whatever. This fight depends entirely on Ray Borg and how good his submission defense is, because I feel like striking-wise, I think Brandon Moreno's got a big advantage. I think that on the ground, it just depends on how well Ray Borg can defend the submissions. I think that, like I said, I mean, to me, Ray Borg just misses weight a lot, and that's always a big factor. I'm going to lean towards Moreno. I think that his submission game is better than Ray Borg's wrestling game, and I think sooner or later he's going to get a dominant position or either catch him in something and probably win by submission in the 2nd round. Next is Karolina Kowalkiewicz versus Felice Herring, and To me, I think this fight's going to be a lot like the fight against Claudia Gadelha. I think they're going to be striking for the most part, but sooner or later, Felice is going to time a takedown, and when she does, she's going to get her down and then get a dominant position and win by rear naked choke. I just feel like we saw in that fight with Claudia, I mean, her takedown defense is good, but if you can get her down, she's kind of not that great on the ground. And to me, I think Felice just has a huge advantage there. She can get that takedown. I think striking-wise, they're about even, so even if she can't get that takedown, it could go either way, but I don't think that's going to happen. I think Felice is going to get a takedown sooner or later, and once she does, I think she's going to win by submission. Next is Al Iaquinta versus Paul Felder, and this is basically just a straight-up striking fight. I feel like Al Iaquinta probably should win this fight, but he's so inconsistent with how often he fights. It makes me want to lean towards Paul just because he's been more active, and I also think this Paul has more ways to attack. I think with Al, it's just straight boxing, and with Paul, it's more of like a Muay Thai kickboxing type of style. I think this fight's going to be close. I think it's going to be like a split decision, but I'm going to lean slightly towards Felder just based on his activity over the last couple of years, and I think, you know, his more diverse striking set. Next is Michael Chiesa versus Anthony Pettis, and to me, Anthony Pettis just hasn't looked great in a while. I feel like, you know, he beat Jim Miller, but he still has the same problem with really good wrestlers. I feel like in the Poirier fight, he looked great. It's just he got hurt. But it still just feels like he's not as good as he used to be. And I think Chiesa is going to do kind of what Poirier did. I think he's going to be able to bully him against the fence and just put the pace on him and eventually win. I honestly wouldn't be surprised if he wins by like rear naked choke at the very end of like the third round. But I got Chiesa just outpacing Anthony Pettis. Sorry, I'm mixing these guys' names up. But I got Michael Chiesa winning by third round rear naked choke. I think he just puts the pace on him and eventually gets that finish. Next is Renato Moicano versus Calvin Kattar, and I don't think that Moicano's a great jiu-jitsu guy and his strikings look better and better, but I don't think he has the wrestling to take Calvin down. I think Calvin's shown amazing takedown defense in the UFC so far and great striking. I think overall striking wise it's going to be like Calvin's last fight where it's pretty even back and forth, but I think Calvin's got the power advantage. Moicano's never won by knockout, and I think that's going to favor Calvin. I think that their technique and pace and their volume is probably going to all be the same, but I think Calvin's just going to do more damage throughout the fight and eventually win by KO, probably in the third, like in his last fight. And I honestly wouldn't be surprised if this is fight of the night, but like I said, I'm leaning towards Calvin getting a third round KO. Next is Joanna Jędrzejczyk versus Rose Namajunas, and I think this fight is really tough just because who knows what Rose should have looked in that last fight. She said that she missed weight by a lot. It's hard to tell just because you can never be 100% on that. And I personally don't think Rose is a better striker than Joanna, so it's tough because it could just be Joanna's chin is gone. I doubt it just because we've never seen her get rocked like that. I'm just going to go with the fact that I hope it's the bad weight cut the first time around and lean towards Joanna. I do think she's the better striker. It's just where's her chin at. If her chin's fine, I think she should be able to win this fight by decision. But if her chin's gone, Rose is going to win by knockout again in the first round. But I'm going to lean towards Joanna not being completely done, and she just wins the decision with her better striking and takedown defense. Next is Khabib Nurmagomedov versus Max Holloway, and this fight is tough. I've been going back and forth on this fight like for a while now, and like I really want Max to win, but I feel like just him taking this fight at such short notice really sucks because I feel like this is a fight he could win if he had more time to prepare for like the move up to lightweight, but he's taking this fight on short notice. He's got to cut a lot of weight, and I don't think his frame, he's bulked up enough for the lightweight. He's still more, you know, it's just hard because I think he's the better striker, but I just don't know if he can soften the takedowns, and I feel like he hasn't had any time to prepare for this fight at all. As where for Khabib, this is essentially the same thing as the Tony fight. The striking isn't that different. And in all honesty, Max's submission game probably isn't as good as Tony's off his back. Like, he's more fundamentally better, I would say, in terms of getting back to his feet. But overall, this is the same fight for Khabib. It's really tough. Like, I really want to pick Max because I think if he could get to the later rounds, he'll win by knockout, like at the 4th or 5th. But I just don't see it happening. I think Khabib's going to win by rear naked choke in the first 3. I don't know when, but that's just how I have it. This depresses me. But anyway, thanks for watching, guys. Please like and subscribe.